Sylacauga and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg for pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation since 1975. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg for pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation. It's Curtis and Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg. Been here a long time, since 1975. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. In obituary news on this a Wednesday morning, Martha J. Finn, age 65, died Saturday, September the 18th. Visitation for Ms. Martha will be Thursday at noon from Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel. That will be followed by a memorial service at 2 p.m. Fond memories and expressions can be shared at curtisandsonfh.com. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, in charge of those arrangements. In other obituary news this morning, Clyde Henderson died at his residence on Monday. Visitation will be September 23rd from 5 until 8 at the North Chapel of Curtis and Son Funeral Home. The funeral service will be September 24th at 11 a.m. from Curtis and Son North, with burial in the Tallahatchie Cemetery. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing that service. In other obituary news this morning, Carla Young Smith, age 64, Childersburg, died Monday. Visitation will be Saturday, September 25th, from 11 a.m. until noon at Alpine Baptist Church. Funeral service will follow at noon, and burial in the Alpine Baptist Church Cemetery in Alpine. That visitation again, 11 a.m. until noon at Alpine Baptist Church, and the funeral service will follow the visitation at noon. The families receiving flowers or contributions in Carla's memory may be made to the Alpine Baptist Church. Fond memories and expressions of sympathy may be shared at curtisandsonfunerals.com for the Smith family. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, directing that service. Funeral arrangements to be announced for John Tiggins, who passed away Monday night at Sylacauga Health and Rehab. Curtis and Son Funeral Home announcing. And funeral arrangements are yet to be made for Mr. Robert Speaks. They'll be announced by Curtis and Son Funeral Home. Homegoing celebration remembering the life of Mrs. Christine Calhoun Hatcher, age 95, will be Thursday at 11 a.m. from King's Chapel Congregational Church, with the Reverend Dr. Henry L. McGee officiating. Public viewing is today, 2 until 7 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mary Oden will be 1 o'clock Thursday at Community Funeral Home Chapel, with burial in the Harper Springs Baptist Church Cemetery. Visitation today at the funeral home from 1 until 7. Community Funeral Home, Sylacauga directing. Funeral service for Laura Frances Brown will be Thursday at 10 a.m. at Oak Grove United Methodist Church, with the Reverend Quentin Lockman and the Reverend Carolyn Goza officiating. Burial in the Alabama National Cemetery in Montevallo. Mrs. Brown died September 18th at her residence. Visitation is tonight, 5 till 7 at the funeral home, at Oak Grove United Methodist Church in Oak Grove. Radley Smith Funeral Home, Sylacauga directing. Byron Sappho, age 33, died September the 19th at Coosa Valley Medical Center. A memorial service will be announced at a later date by the family. Radley Smith Funeral Home directing the arrangements locally. And S.M. Goodson Funeral Home and Crematory will announce the arrangements for Eloise Jackson, age 94. She died September 21st. Jennifer Murner, age 48, died September 19th. Funeral service 2 o'clock on Thursday at Ursery Funeral Home in Talladega, with Tim Schultz officiating. The family receiving friends 2 hours prior to the service. Online condolences at urseryfuneralhome.com. Ursery Funeral Home directing James Jim E. Pruitt, age 86, of Talladega, died Sunday at Citizens BMC in Talladega. The family will, due to COVID, will have a private service. Jim and his wife Rona were members of the First Baptist Church in Talladega and request that remembrances be made in the form of contributions to the Whosoever Will Foundation in Talladega, P.O. Box 299, zip 35161, or to WISE, the Woolley Institute for Spoken Language in Birmingham, Alabama /2305 Montevallo Road, Birmingham, Alabama 35223. Ursery Funeral Home directing. And graveside service for Terry Glenn Falk, age 58, of Alexander City, is Thursday at 11 o'clock from Hillview Memorial Park. The family receiving friends tonight, 5 until 7 at the funeral home. Mr. Falk died September 20th at Russell Medical Center. Radney Funeral Home, Alexander City, in charge of the arrangements. Melvin Woods died at UAB in Birmingham last night. Curtis & Son Funeral Home will announce the funeral arrangements. Funeral service for Mrs. Eloise Reagan Atkins, age 82, of Alexander City, will be Thursday at 3:30 from the chapel of Radney Funeral Home. Reverend Mike Jones officiating. The family receiving friends Thursday at 2 o'clock until 3 p.m. at Radney Funeral Home. Graveside service will follow Friday at Greenwood Cemetery in Cairo, Georgia at 1 o'clock Central Time. Mrs. Atkins died September 19th at Lake Martin Community Hospital in Dadeville. Memorial messages may be sent to the family at radneyfuneralhome.com or to clarkfuneralhome.com. Radney Funeral Home directing. Graveside service for Mr. Leonard Peoples of Kellyton will be 10:30 Saturday at Armour's Memorial Garden in Alexander City. There will be no public viewing. Final arrangements entrusted to Armour's Memorial Funeral Home. Jane Speaks King, age 80, died September the 18th. Funeral service will be Thursday at 2 p.m. from the Trinity campus of First United Methodist Church. Dr. Todd Henderson and the Reverend Chip Van officiating. Burial in the Alexander City Cemetery. The family will receive friends Thursday from noon until 1:30 at the Trinity campus of First United Methodist Church. And Radney Funeral Home in Alexander City in charge of the arrangements. Graveside service for Miss Ida M. Tuck Graham, age 68, of Alexander City, will be Thursday at 11 a.m. from Armour's Memorial Garden in Alexander City. Visitation today, 4 until 7 at the funeral home. Armour's Memorial Funeral Home, Alexander City, directing. Mr. Jesse James Corbin, age 71, died September 14th. Visitation is Thursday from 4 until 7 at Armour's Memorial Funeral Home. That'll be from 4 until 7, and a graveside service on Friday at 11 a.m. from Armour's Memorial Garden. Armour's Memorial Funeral Home, Alexander City, directing. Visitation for Jesse Steve Cox, better known as Paul Bear, age 79, of Sylacauga, is today from noon until 2 o'clock at Radney Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga. Funeral service at 2 in the chapel with Brother Doug Williams officiating. Burial in the Fayetteville Cemetery. Radney Smith Funeral Home, Sylacauga, directing. And graveside service for Mrs. Rebecca Dawson, age 59, of Goodwater, is today at 1 o'clock from Macedonia Memorial Garden Cemetery in Goodwater. Minister Sharon Epps officiating. Zion Memorial Funeral Home in Sylacauga in charge of the funeral arrangements. That is a look at obituaries this morning, brought to you by Curtis & Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg for pre-need funerals, burials, or cremations since 1975. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga,